With Astrology presents What's Your Sign? Today we're going to be talking about Leo. Everything you ever wanted to know about having a Leo sun, Leo moon, or Leo ascendant, which is also called the rising sign, and just general Leo information. We'll start with the basics. The picture on the top right-hand side is the symbol for Leo. Leo is ruled by the sun, and that's important. What do we think about when we think about the sun? It's this large, powerful, magnetic, dynamic force. It's so large, in fact, that it represents 99.8% of the solar system. That means that the planets and asteroids and moons and everything else combined only makes up for 0.2% of the solar system. It's a creative force. The energy that came together to create the sun is what formed all the planets, and it's through Earth's connection to the sun that life was able to form and flourish. The sun is responsible for rain. It's of course responsible for heat and light. Sunlight is converted by plants in order to nourish themselves, which of course provides a food source for animals and humans. And there's really interesting studies that have been done that show that exposure to sunlight has a relationship with personal happiness. So people who have significant exposure to sunlight report higher levels of optimism, life satisfaction, and happiness. And during the winter months, when we don't get as much sunlight, there are a lot of people who end up suffering from depression and other conditions that are created by the absence of light. The other thing that's interesting is that the sun has a leadership quality to it. So obviously it has a very strong gravitational pull, which makes it magnetic, right? And so all of the planets end up revolving around the sun on their elliptics. But what we don't think about is that the sun itself is also on its own elliptic through the solar system. And as it moves through the solar system, it drags all of the planets and everything else in its gravitational pull along with it. Leo rules the fifth house of the zodiac. The fifth house is the house of childhood, play, romance, birth, self-expression. And I think I want to sort of clarify, because when we talk about romance, it's Leo energy and fifth house energy is that sort of feeling of like butterflies in your stomach, can't sleep at night kind of romance. That, you know, incredible, overwhelming joy when you first meet someone, the intensity of a short-term relationship, or the intensity in the beginning of a relationship before it's really settled into where it is. And that's the kind of romance that exists in the fifth house, that either fleeting relationships or that very short period in the beginning of a relationship where it's this overwhelming butterfly, can't sleep, joyful feeling of meeting someone who could be a partner. I talk about the myth of Leo. So if anyone listened to the Cancer video, there's a story that Hercules got into a fight and the goddess that he was fighting with turned him crazy, and he made some really bad choices and he did some really bad things. And as an act of penance, in order to atone for his wrongdoings, he was told that he had to perform 12 tasks. Now, the myth of Leo is about the first task that Hercules had to perform. So basically, there was, in this small village, there was a lion that was a magical lion. And it would take the form of a beautiful damsel in distress, and lure in men from neighboring villages. And when they got close to the lion, they would see that of course it wasn't the damsel in distress, that it was a lion, and the lion would rip them to shreds. And so Hercules was tasked with killing this lion. So he goes into the cave and he tries to kill the lion with, weapons, bows and knives and all this kind of stuff. But nothing can pierce the skin of the lion. And eventually, he sort of gives up and throws all of his weapons on the ground and goes at it with his bare hands and kills it. And And then once it's dead, he has to take off its pelt so that he can prove to, I think, Zeus that he killed the lion, and he can't seem to get it off because none of these weapons, the knives and stuff like that, won't penetrate the skin. And the only thing that will penetrate the skin, it turns out, is the claws of the lion itself. And so there's a lot of things in this myth that point to Leo. I find it to be quite a violent myth. I'm not like a super big fan, but I think it has some really interesting points in it. So the first thing is that the lion lured men in by taking another form, right? And I think part of this sort of Leo experience of life is to learn to take on roles, is to learn to present a face to the world. It's to learn to symbolize something bigger than yourself and symbolize something bigger than yourself. And, that's why Leo has a relationship with performance. It has a relationship with leadership, which is about learning how, in many cases, to keep a straight face, even when not everything is going perfectly. It's about learning to present yourself in a particular way in order to gain something from that experience. The other thing that's really interesting is that Hercules couldn't hurt the lion until he touched it. And I think that feeds into that sort of idea that the lion had a pretense, was putting something on, and that the real vulnerability wasn't apparent until you got close enough that you got underneath the shell or underneath what it was presenting to the world. And finally, there's sort of the element of the claws, right? So nothing can penetrate the skin except for the lion's own claws. And I think there's something to that part of it too. Like, nothing really tears down Leo except Leo. The honorable course that Leo is here to take, the lessons that Leo is here to learn, who Leo is supposed to be, and what Leo is supposed to do is about confidence and self-love and self-acceptance and really self-honoring and coming to this place where you realize how freaking amazing you are and how much you have to contribute, and allowing the rest of the world to benefit from that inner wisdom and that inner knowledge and that inner confidence. And the only thing that really gets in the way of that is when you start tearing yourself down, or when you start giving other people the power to tear you down. And I think that's what the claws are about, is about the fact that Leo's greatest weakness is the self and the relationship with the self. So we move to fire. So every sign has an elemental association. Leo's elemental association is the element of fire. And I think fire is, which I think is obviously super appropriate because, it's ruled by the sun, right? So fire is this like dynamic force. It's bright, it's shiny, it's eye-catching, it's warm, and I think it's dynamic. And the other thing I think about fire too is that in its own way, it's sort of transformative. So all of those things are part of the energy of fire. But the other thing that's really important when you look at fire is that fire signs, they want action. They want to do something. They don't want to think it to death. They don't want to plan it to death. They want to act. They want to get out into the world and do something. And so elemental associations, they tell us about compatibility. Signs that share elemental association they speak the same language, and they have the ability to relate in a way that's just smoother and easier. It's not, of course, to say that you should stick to relationships only with people who have similar elemental associations. There's benefits to be had pairing any sign with any other sign. But there's an ease to the relationships between signs that share an element. And in the case of fire, those signs are Leo, Sagittarius, and Aries. So throughout this video, I'll be talking about a lot of different things. And so I want to start by talking about what to listen for if you're a Leo sun. So Leo, the sun in astrology is who you are in stillness when no one is around and nobody is watching. And so it's sort of the purest form of who you are. It's the purest form of self-expression, and typically it represents your identity. Now, what's interesting or significant about that, in the case of a Leo sun, is that the sun, of course, rules Leo. So you have double Leo energy in your chart. It's just going to be more pronounced and more obvious. And I think there's something really cool about this. We're going to talk about this sort of throughout. But if who you are in stillness, when no one is around and nothing, and sort of no one's watching, is this person who sits in the seat of your own power, who has complete access to the incredible majesty that you are, who has total access to the wisdom that we're all incredible and that we all have these amazing, incredible gifts to give. Someone who's running pure Leo energy, someone who's running it in a clean, healthy way, is running the purest energy possible of the sun in their chart. Just like someone who's running pure Cancer energy in their moon is running the purest Cancer energy possible in their chart. Oops, it says Aries, but it lies. So Leo moon. So the moon in the chart is about your emotional body, okay? It's about what you feel, what makes you feel, how you demonstrate those feelings, all of those kinds of things. And so throughout the course of the video, what you want to kind of listen to is like, when I'm talking about the where's the ouch, you want to look at how those things might show up when you're having a hard time emotionally, and how you can shift and pivot that energy to better serve and support you. And then it also kind of, it's a little bit of a tell. If the Leo energy is running in a happy, shiny, healthy way, then it means emotionally you're in a better place, you're in a good place. And if it's running in not such a happy, shiny, healthy way, then you know that there's something beneath the surface that needs to be dealt with. And again, it says Aries, but really it's Leo. Sorry about that, guys. So Leo rising. I love this picture, and I picked it very intentionally because I love this sort of little person who's sitting in this tiny little costume of this creature that's supposed to be like fierce and dynamic, and there's something really compelling about it. And also Leo has, we're going to talk about this a lot, but Leo has a really tight, very close relationship with childhood. And so I think it's kind of cool to include some pictures of children throughout the entire video. And I know there's a lot of Leos who may not think that's the best possible idea, because Leo is a strong, charismatic, dynamic sign that's not necessarily represented best by a 5-year-old, but I think it's part of who you are and part of what you should embrace about yourself in order to run this sign in the healthiest, shiniest way. So a rising sign is about the face you show the world, the thing that's most obvious about you to other people, the lens through which the world sees you. And so that's not always how you see yourself. It's not always how you want other people to see you, but it's how other people see you. So we'll start with childhood, Leo's association with childhood. So the 5th house is the house of childhood. Leo is the sign of childhood. And I think there's something really cool about that, because Leo energy, like pure Leo energy, is who you are before anyone hurt you. It's who you are before someone told you that you weren't supposed to be that loud, or who you are before someone tried to make you smaller. It's that little kid in all of us that screams, look at me, love me, appreciate me, all that kind of thing. And so I love these two pictures, because the little girl in the picture on the right hand side, she just looks like she's opening her arms to the world and just allowing herself to experience that childlike joy and enthusiasm and optimism that Leo is so capable of experiencing. And the kid on the left hand side, it's like this tiny little kid who's pretending to be a superhero. And I think there's two really cool things about that. One, part of Leo energy is to learn how to step into different roles, and then grow into them, and then integrate what can be learned from them. So, we start out with the idea that we're putting on a costume or a mask, but slowly we become the thing that we're pretending to be. And I think that's part of Leo's experience, the whole sort of you've got to fake it to make it kind of energy. This energy that part of becoming something new sometimes is sitting with something that's uncomfortable and trying on different ways of being in order to grow and evolve. And I think the energy of childhood that wraps into this is that in childhood, there's this sort of limitlessness. There's this boundarylessness to existence where you get to just pretend you're anything and experience anything and just open yourself to any possibility. And I think that vibrant, dynamic, incredible energy is what Leo is capable of being. And then I just put this picture at the bottom because I think it's really important. The creative adult is the child who survived. And I think that's true, like Leo energy at its core is the part of us that didn't get erased when we were kids. It's the part of us that's this pure, authentic self. I think, we all, I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but we all get shaped into things. We grow up in different environments where certain personality traits are favored and certain personality traits are not, and certain behaviors are favored and certain behaviors are not. And Leo is the part of ourself that holds on to who we started out as being. And there's something sort of beautiful and authentic about that, the part of us that isn't ashamed to say that we want people to like us. The part of us that, wants to entertain people and make them laugh and make them feel joy and all those kinds of things. And yes, the part of ourself eventually, as we're going to talk about, that wants to be a leader, that wants to do something and wants people to support them in what they're doing. And we'll talk about that a lot throughout the course of this video. And moving on to leadership. So Leo has a relationship with leadership, which is not really a surprise. I think we have to sort of dig into what leadership is and what it means and what it doesn't mean. A pure Leo leader, so someone who's running healthy Leo energy, healthy being the imperative word there, is someone who learns how to use joy and play and performance and creativity and warmth and nourishment and love to compel people to follow them. It's a charismatic energy, it's engaging, it's dynamic, and it has the capacity to change the world. It has ideas, it knows how to make them happen, it knows how to sell them, and it knows how to bring people into their web and convince people that what they're doing is powerful and has meaning and is worth contributing to. And I think those are incredible things. Those are the things that come together to create and affect change in the world, and they're beautiful and dynamic. When this energy is not so happy and shiny, it's someone who just needs to be in control all the time and can't admit that they don't always know what they're doing and can't let their ego go for long enough to recognize they could be wrong, or that someone else's opinion could be a better opinion. So, Leo energy is an ease with leadership that allows you to be on top, to be in control, but to still find a way to mine the wisdom of the entire team, sort of crowdsource knowledge to build something better than what currently exists. And we're going to talk about a little bit later about what that looks like when it's not in a happy, shiny way, but this is what it looks like when it is. Move to creativity. Creativity is a tricky little word. Most people hear the word creativity and they see someone painting or crafting or writing or doing something that involves making something pretty. And those things are all creative, no doubt about it. But creativity is more than that. It's anything that starts as an idea that we give birth to. So it's like something that we think of, that we turn into form, that we bring into the world. It's any time we create something new in the world. That's how we're creative. So for some people, their creativity is creating a business. For some people, their creativity is creating a product. For some people, their creativity is creating a new way of being or a new way of thinking or a new way of doing. Whatever it is, it's sort of mining information, usually from a connection with something higher than yourself, tuning in to the wisdom of the universe, and then finding a way for that thing to take shape and be born, whatever it is. Sometimes creativity can mean literally creating people, like little tiny children, which is why it has a relationship, where childhood and creativity has a relationship with Leo as well, right? Anytime we turn something from an idea into physical form and then learn how to present whatever it is that we create to the world so that it can be accepted by others and utilized by others and all that kind of stuff. All of that stuff is creativity. And I can't remember, this might come up more later, but one of Leo's skills is not just creating something, it's learning how to market it. It's learning how to make it appealing to other people so that it has a chance of success. And of course, that's an incredible, incredible skill, and one that the world benefits from. Confidence. Leo is, in its purest form, Leo is confident, right? It's the part of you that's connected to who you were before the world molded or shifted or shaped you into what it thought you should be. And Leo energy is about confidence. It's realizing how powerful you are and how dynamic you are and how interesting you are. It's realizing all of the wonderful things about you and all of the wonderful ways that you can contribute to the world, and just realizing your worth. And we're going to talk later about what happens when this energy isn't running in a happy, shiny, healthy way. But at its core, Leo has something to teach us all. It has the ability to teach us that all of us have value, and that all of us are special, and that all of us bring something unique and special and interesting into the world. And part of what Leo's journey is about is building self-confidence, building self-acceptance, building self-love, and presenting yourself to the world in that healed way. So relationship with pleasure and play, pure, happy, shiny Leo energy. It's playful, it's fun. It's the part of you that, wants to tell jokes and laugh. It's the part of you that, maybe wants to play video games. It's the part of you that doesn't want to be productive 24 hours a day. It's the part of you that wants to enjoy life and find joy in life and find happiness in life. And when Leo energy is well manifested, when it's healthy, it's this part of you that moves past this idea that you're just this person who's on a mission that's supposed to understand everything that's going on around them and to, live your life purpose and, all of this important, deep, heavy stuff, and just come to a place where, yes, all that's true. You're supposed to live on purpose and you're supposed to do something with your life, but you should also have fun, and you should also play, and you should also learn to enjoy every single moment that you have on this earth. And that is the energy of Leo, is finding space and finding time to play and to live in joy. And, Leo energy, when it's happy, shiny, and healthy, is funny. It's I said good humor, so not only is it funny itself, but it has the ability to laugh at itself and laugh at its own jokes. Laughing at yourself as a Leo is not easy, and it takes a lot of inner work to get to the place where Leo energy is run at that sort of clean of a level, but it is a possibility. Leo energy is warm, it's generous, it's optimistic, and at its core, it's playful. Leo has a relationship with performance, and I mean a super big relationship with performance, right? Leo is the part of all of us that wants to be seen and appreciated for who we are. And at the core, when Leo energy is really strong in the chart, it's someone who wants to be seen by lots of people. So, strong Leo energy has a relationship with sort of like the quest to be the center of attention, the quest for celebrity, the quest to be a performer. And that can be, there's 1,000 different ways to be a performer. You can be a performer because you're an artist, like a musician or a actor or a singer or something. But there's a lot of people who perform in different ways. The CEO of a company is also a performer. They have to stand in front of a whole bunch of people and pretend they know exactly what's happening at all times. Well, it'd be nice if they don't do it all the time, but certainly there's an element of performance to any type of leadership. There's an element of performance to anyone who's in government, for example, or anybody who represents something bigger than themselves. So anytime you represent a company, or anytime you represent the character that you're playing, or anytime that you represent, a community, you have this element of Leo. And strong, if you look at any celebrity on the planet, you're going to find that some of the strongest energies in their charts are going to be the Sun and Leo. And yeah, so I picked these two because, Leo energy, especially when it's running strong in the chart, has this sort of like dynamic, wants the applause, wants the fans, wants to be congratulated, wants to be seen as special and important and fabulous and fantastic and all this kind of stuff. And so one of the easiest ways to see Leo is in our own lives when we're trying to get attention, or when we're basking in the glow of other people's attention, where we're collecting laughs, or we're collecting congratulations, or anytime when we're looking externally for self-validation. It's Leo, sometimes Libra, but mostly that sort of external quest for self-validation, that external quest to find people who will follow us, or find people who will adore us, or find people who will be fans of us. All that kind of energy is all the energy of Leo. And there's a lot of judgment in our world about people who are seeking out that energy, and certainly there are ways that can be run in shadow, where it's not it's not constructive, I suppose. But there are also, we wouldn't have the incredible performers that we do without Leo energy. We wouldn't have the guys that are willing to, stand on stage and tell jokes and make us laugh and have a great time. We wouldn't have the film industry. We wouldn't really have artists. We wouldn't have so many things in the world. We wouldn't have people willing to stand up and be leaders and drive us into, new areas and do new things and all this kind of stuff. None of that would exist without the energy of Leo. And so I think we have to make peace with that fact that there's a little kid in all of us who wants our parents to clap and tell us that we're fabulous and that we look pretty. So that's sort of the energy of performance that accompanies Leo. Now we're going to talk about the sort of the things that come up in Leo when it's hurt. So when you're hurt, like if you have a Leo moon, these are sort of behaviors that you'll find in yourself when you're going through difficult times, or, not just if you have Leo moon, there's a lot if you have Leo rising, these can be behaviors that come up if you're having a challenging time. And if you have a Leo sun, then it's deeper. These are behaviors that come up when, I think it's around when you've abandoned yourself, when you get to a place in your life where you lose yourself, and you really have to tune in to your core and find a place of stillness and centeredness to come through it. Of course, if you have any relationship between Chiron and your sun, or you have your sun in the 12th house, or in the 8th house, or an intercepted sun, or Leo in any of those areas, then these also are naturally going to come up for you. So where there's an ouch, the performer without the stage. I think this is huge. Leo energy, like I just talked about, is this sort of dynamic energy that wants to represent something bigger than itself, that wants to stand in front of an audience, that wants to be seen, that wants to be appreciated and valued. And when that energy doesn't find a home, it means that Leos feel profoundly vulnerable, right? Like if your natural personality is to be the boss or to be a leader, and you're put in a position where you're on the bottom rung of the totem pole in a company and you have no feeling of power or autonomy or authority in your life, you're going to act out, right? So, when the performer doesn't have a stage, or when the performer is heckled on stage, it's automatically going to drive you into a really dark and uncomfortable place. And when it comes to Leo, that manifests in a bunch of different ways. The first one is that it can just be like a little bit of a swan dive for your feeling of self-confidence and self-worth. So if your identity or your emotional security are wrapped up in this idea of seeing yourself as the leader, the performer, the creative, and no one else is buying into that vision that you have of who you are, or people are sort of fighting with you about who they think you are versus who you think you are, then you're left in a position where you don't know who you are, or where you're that lion sort of clawing through your own coat, tearing yourself apart to figure out what's wrong with you because you can't seem to find people to provide you with the feedback, to provide you with the support, to provide you with the adoration that you crave and desire. And so it comes to this place. I think one of the things that we tell Leos all the time is that you're supposed to find everything within, because that's what we tell everyone, right? Like, you're supposed to find your confidence from within, you're supposed to find your self-worth from within and all this kind of stuff. But Leo is not actually really built for that. Leo is built to have that confidence, of course, but to seek out validation from the outside world. And that's what pushes Leo to do what Leo is supposed to do, which is to be something bigger than themselves, to represent themselves, to be a performer, to be an entertainer, to be the boss, to be all of these different things. And in order to take all of those roles, you have to have someone who craves that validation from the outside world. So I would never tell a Leo that you're not supposed to care what anyone else thinks of you, because it's not reasonable. And it's not realistic. But what Leos have to learn to do to run this energy in a healthy, shiny, happy way is learn to be selective who you give that power to. So it's about choosing whose opinion matters and who doesn't, and choosing it consciously. Because that energy isn't going to go away. You just need to learn to direct it so that it's working for you instead of against you. Where there's an attention seeking. I very intentionally chose this picture because I think, again, we have a huge amount of judgment around this, right? And so I chose this picture of this little girl with "look at me" written on her hands for a reason, because we all feel compassion for her, right? We all sort of look at her and go, oh, doesn't she deserve a hug? Doesn't she deserve to be told she's amazing and smart and funny and wonderful? She deserves all of those things. She's just a little kid trying to figure out who she is. The challenge, of course, is that even if you're 85, you're just a little kid trying to figure out who you are. It's a lifelong journey. It doesn't end when we're little. And that vulnerable part of us that needs other people to love us, that needs other people to tell us that we're doing a good job, that part of us doesn't die when we're 9 or 10 or 11 or 15. It lives with us throughout our entire lives. And when Leo energy is in not such a happy, shiny place, it has this constant craving for attention. It does things that are self-destructive in order to get people to like it. It does things that are self-destructive in order to get validation, sometimes from the wrong people at the wrong time in the wrong way. But it does anything that it can to put itself on stage so that it can refuel its self-esteem through the applause or validation or appreciation of other people. And so I think again, the thing is that the goal here is not to never care what anyone else thinks of you, or to never seek out attention outside of yourself. That's not realistic for a Leo, and I don't think it's a fair thing to request. What I do think is that when it comes to attention-seeking behavior, you do need to dig inside of yourself and figure out what part of you is demanding that attention. What thing are you feeling really insecure about right now? And is there a tool or another way that you can heal the part of yourself that's crying out for this validation, that's crying out for this love? And how can you do that? And maybe it is about getting on stage. Maybe it is about, taking a role in a community theater. Maybe it is about doing something artistic, or, taking a volunteer job that allows you to be, the boss for a little while, whatever. You find ways that engage the Leo energy in a happy, shiny way, and find ways to heal and love and validate that part of you that wants the attention in the first place. You look at the little girl in the picture, the 7-year-old with or she's probably way littler, I'm not great with age, but anyway, the little kid with the words on her hands, right? You would never tell that little kid that she shouldn't care what other people think about her, or that she shouldn't want attention or validation. You'd give her a big, giant hug, tell her that she's fabulous, and do everything in your power to make her feel that way too. And that's exactly what you deserve from yourself. Whereas the ouch, it's lonely at the top. So I think this one's really important. Leo energy, it seeks or craves to be at the top. It craves to be in a leadership role. It craves to have followers. It craves to be in control of situations and environments, etc., etc., etc. But once you get to the top, once you're the boss, it's lonely. You're an outsider. Everybody else has peers and you don't. Everybody else has, someone who they can go to get an honest opinion. But when you're the leader, and everybody's job and everybody's well-being is wrapped up in your approval, or wrapped up in, your opinion of them, you get to a point where you're isolated, where you can't necessarily trust anyone else's opinion, and you can't really figure out if people like you for who you are or what you can give them. And I think we have this come up a lot in celebrities, and celebrity is obviously the biggest Leo job out there, right? Not big as in everybody has it, but one of the expressions of Leo energy is that celebrity energy. And so you get to this point where you get the fame, or you get the accolades, or you get the recognition, or you get the position where you're the boss, or you end up in this place where you end up isolated, because in your quest to be in control, in your quest to be on top, in your quest to be different and special and big and fantastic and adored, you forgot to surround yourself with people who aren't one of your adoring fans. I don't know if that makes any sense. So sometimes what Leo does is increasingly isolate themselves, make it so that everybody is waiting for their approval, and so consequently they can't trust anybody else, right? And the only thing I can say about this is that the best managers are the managers who aren't outside of their staff. They're a part of a team, and they're part of a team who also has to make some difficult decisions. And it's about learning not to isolate yourself. It's about learning to see yourself as special, but also recognize that everybody is special, which I think is really challenging. But it's this idea that you can know that you're special. You can know that there's something amazing about you, but you have to also know that there's something amazing about all of us, and that we're all special. And when you come to that place where you realize that we all have these extraordinary gifts to give, then you stop looking at people as beneath you. You start engaging them. You start finding peer relationships, and you stop being so isolated in your life. Where's the ouch because I said so? So this fits sort of back into the last slide, right? So Leo energy, if you do get to that place where you're kind of at the top and your opinion's the most important opinion in whatever environment you've created, you can get to a point where you think that your opinion is the only one that matters, or you think that what you have to say is more important than what anyone else has to say. And you end up pushing other people down so that you can be on top. And, that's just, again, you want to be really gentle with yourself and say, like, that's coming from not coming from a bad place. It's coming from a place of hurt. You're trying to raise yourself up and make yourself feel special because you're working through probably some challenges and feelings of vulnerability and feelings of low self-esteem or imposter syndrome or anything like that. There are 1,000 reasons that we push other people down. But I think that one of the keys is to recognize that you're doing it, and to pull back and realize that leadership is about mining all of your resources, all of the resources that you have available, in particular human resources, right? And learning how to see the beauty in everyone else, and learning how to be wrong, and learning how to be that vulnerable Leo, learning that you can be strong and powerful and dynamic and special and also honest and fragile and vulnerable, and learning when to allow that to happen and learning when not to allow that to happen. That's all part of the journey of Leo. So the first thing I would say is that when this happens, that you feel like your arrogance is coming up, that you're diminishing other people, that you're pushing other people down, the first response that I ask of you is self-compassion. Just realize that even if you are doing those things, it doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a, unevolved person. It doesn't make you a horrible person. It just makes you someone who's hurt and vulnerable and delicate and fragile, and somebody who needs a big hug, and somebody who can slowly work back from that position and come into a space where they can learn how to be a leader and also be part of the team, or where they can learn how to be on stage and be the performer, but also develop really healthy, equal relationships outside of that arena of their life. So it's about learning balance, learning that the fact that Leo means that you're going to be asked to take a role. Leo means that you're going to be asked to represent something bigger than yourself. But balancing Leo energy means that you learn that role can't become your whole life, and that you need to learn to maintain relationships that sit outside of that space for you, that are equal, and where someone can tell you difficult things and tell you hard truths and be honest with you. And you need to learn as a Leo how to be challenged, how to have someone say no to you, how to have someone say that's a really not a good idea, and how to be okay with it, and how to learn that your value isn't wrapped up. Sorry, guys. That your value isn't wrapped up in this idea that you're always in control and that you always know what to do, and that you're always on top. You're more than that. Where there's an ouch, overconfidence. So this is like the same thing. Overconfidence for Leo is just like, it's sort of like ignoring the environment that you're in and taking on roles that you haven't been assigned to. You see a lot of this energy in like workplaces where someone has like a really strong Leo energy, and even though they're on a peer level to everyone else in the entire workplace, they start delegating tasks and telling them what to do and trying to take on the role of a boss. That's Leo shadow, that idea of like, I don't know, maybe co-opting power that doesn't belong to you. And that's sort of this element of like overconfidence, like, even though no one told me I was promoted, and even though I don't have that title, I'm clearly better than everyone else in my department, so I'm just going to start acting like the boss, or reminding someone all the time, like, if a new employee comes in and you've been in your job for 10 years, if you find yourself telling them more than once that you've been there for 10 years, it's because you're trying to assert your authority, which if you're at a peer level, you don't have. So I think overconfidence and also co-opting power that doesn't belong to you are both shadow areas for Leo. And I think these ones are so tough. I think the first place you have to come is like, again, to that place of like self-love and self-acceptance. Like, I know why I'm doing this. It's because I don't feel valued. It's because my bosses don't see my contributions and I have no power over that. So I'm going to try and take power wherever I can because I feel powerless. So you start by coming from a place of like self-love and self-acceptance and realizing where this energy is coming from and why you're doing what you are doing. And then you come into a place where you correct the behavior and in that I don't know, I think it's a more honest approach. It's going to your boss and saying, hey, I should be in a higher position. Or it's choosing a new job where you are in a higher position. Or it's, if you're a performer and you're not getting the roles that you want to do, it's going to a coach and getting better so that you can get the roles that you want to have, right? But ultimately what it is taking action to get you into the position that you want to have, as opposed to trying to take a role that hasn't been assigned to you and that you're not entitled to yet. I think this is a really tough energy for Leo. I think it's probably one of the most noticeable shadows of Leo. And like I said, the first step for Leo energy is always to love the self first, accept the self first, and then figure out, once you're in that place of peace and love acceptance, peace, love, and personal acceptance, how you can shift and change that dynamic. And then this is the ending slide. So what is Leo? What are the possibilities for Leo? Why is Leo fabulous, right? And I think I'm just going to start with the top. I picked a picture of Adele, I think, for like lots of reasons. One, and she's on stage and she has these like incredible fans who like get to this like manic, frantic sort of panic energy when she puts out an album, because she's fabulous and she has this like incredible platform that she's used to really help a lot of people. And I think Adele's kind of this really nice idea of like Leo energy, because she put herself out there. She does something that makes people feel something. She does something that has meaning and worth and value. She has this self-confidence and this lack of willingness to change just because the world says that she should be a certain size or shape. And her energy, even though she could be the biggest diva on the planet, she has found a way to balance this dynamic and keep enough of a foot in the real world to not be that kind of diva, even though really she has the right to be if she so chose to be. So I like the sort of Adele energy, which is like I'm the center of attention. I like that I'm the center of attention. I deserve to be the center of attention, but being the center of attention doesn't make me better than everybody else. That's the sort of beautiful, dynamic, performance type energy there. The second picture in, I've got like the shiny, happy, laughing Buddha with the rainbow. Not gonna lie, I had a minute, I didn't know if I should include this one, but I did. And the reason is because pure Leo energy is the path to enlightenment, the path to evolution through joy, through pure, unadulterated joy. I think that's really amazing. Like Leo teaches us to love our lives. It teaches us to find joy in every moment and to fill ourselves to the brim with it. And joy is this energy that has this incredibly high vibration. So I think Leo has so much to teach all of us about that, about learning how to use the power of laughter and the power of joy to become better people and to evolve and to just bring something extraordinary and beautiful and wonderful into the world. And the next picture is this girl who's giving herself a hug. And we talked about this a lot, right? Like the cleanest, most beautiful, fabulous, fantastic Leo energy is this energy that's self-loving, that's self-accepting, that's self-confident. It's I think what we should all sort of aspire to be is to learn to see how amazing we all are and how we can contribute and how we can love ourselves and how being healed in those kinds of ways can make the world a better place and can make ourselves better, and how we can contribute through that. For anybody who's into energy work, Leo is associated with the third chakra, with the solar plexus chakra, and the journey of Leo is about self-empowerment. It's about self-confidence, it's about self-worth, and it's about trusting yourself and living an authentic life. The bottom picture here, we've got the guy at the top of the ladder. So earlier I talked about how the top of the ladder can be lonely, etc., 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 and that's totally true. But it's also like the top of the ladder and stuff. So Leo energy is about being on the top of the ladder. It's about, being a visionary, being creative and dynamic, and having these amazing leadership qualities, and taking these calculated risks and helping people, and using those calculated risks to create something and to bring something into the world and to lead other people. And I think Leo at its core is someone who's capable of helping other people become the best they can be. It's about leadership through creating relationships that are trusting and loving and joyful. And it's about helping people evolve into who they're capable of being. And in order to get to that place, you have to resolve all that sort of stuff around Leo energy about being on top, and come to a space where you know that, the student chooses the teacher. The teacher doesn't choose the student. And once Leo comes into that space and recognizes it and just creates an environment where they can become a teacher, become a leader, and allow people and trust that people will seek them out as a leader, then they can reach their full potential. And the last picture on the bottom right hand side is Beyonce. Clearly lots of Leo energy there because she's all on stage and stuff, but she's just laughing and having a good time. And I guess I just wanted to reinforce that energy, that the incredible high vibrational energy of playfulness and joy, and just bringing that into the world, and how much you can change someone's life by making them laugh, and how much you can change the world by being happy and optimistic and warm and kind and loving, and loving yourself. Thanks for listening. This is Bonnie with Heal with Astrology, and this week we were talking about Leo.